I'd like to call this meeting of the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education to order at 7:01. You'd all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Ann Vania.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Sharon Lampel.
Here.
David Pombo.
Here.
Sanita Jithendra.
Here.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda.
I have one correction. We're going to pull action item H. That step in the hiring process is no longer necessary.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Having a first and second. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, recognition. AXA Region 7 2020 High School Principal of the Year Award, Mr. Ben Fober.
So it's my pleasure to formally acknowledge Mr. Fober for a well-earned award. He was named for the secondary education through AXA organization as Principal of the Year. Mr. Fober was the inaugural principal, and 6 years later, going into 7, he has chosen to continue to lead what is the most progressive high school in the state of California. And many of the great ideas that manage that program has come from his well-conceived noggin. So Mr. Fober has built a strong team, and the one-to-one textbook replacement of a computer program, along with mastery-based grading and the professional learning community that they built there as a unit, have all happened under his tutelage. So we'd like to invite Mr. Fober to the podium to say a few words, and we would like to formally congratulate him on a well-deserved honor.
Welcome, Principal Fober.
So I'd just like to thank those who nominated me for the award. I really do appreciate it. Being a longtime resident and the principal of the school is actually a dream of mine for a long time as an educator, and being nurtured in this environment and able to really meet the goals that we've set as a district, to listen to the community and the feedback from that community, and to build a truly collaborative environment is something that is something that's pleasing to me, and I hope pleasing to other people as well. I think a lot of the ideas that we've had and continue to have are helping us through even some of the most difficult times in education now, and so we're grateful that I'm grateful that I have such a great team to work with here at the district office. I can't do any of that work without all of the people at the high school, all of the admin at the school. The leadership team, the teacher leaders, are essential to the environment that we've created, the student leaders, and all of the teachers and community members. So I really appreciate this honor. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ben. Very well deserved.
Thank you, Principal Fober. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, Ben. Very well earned.
Nice job, Ben. Congratulations.
Mr. President, if I could just say a couple words real quick.
Sure.
Ben, I was fortunate to be on the board when you first took that role, and I just want to say, first off, that the high school wouldn't be as successful as it is without your leadership. So thank you very much. You're a big ideas guy. You've brought ideas to this board And having ideas is one thing, but being able to take those ideas and implement them is something completely different. And that's a skill that not many people have, and you do. So I'm very appreciative. I'm glad that you've stuck with us all these years, because I know you've had opportunities to go elsewhere. And I just can't say how much I appreciate all the hard work that you've done, and look forward to more to come. Thank you.
I concur, and I think I can speak for the rest of the board that we all share those sentiments.
Absolutely. When I'm, talking to people in other districts, and I talk about Lammersville, and they say, "Oh, isn't that Mountain House High School? That's that new awesome high school." I'm like, yes. So it's nice to be proud of what we have built and what Ben has led to get that reputation in the area. So again, thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, governing board reports. Student trustee.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Trustee Bonilla.
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Lampel.
Nothing to report. I've just been trying to keep up on some of the webinars through the organizations that we are affiliated with.
Thank you. Trustee Balzerini.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Trustee Clements.
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I don't really have anything to report, but I would just like to reiterate the sentiments that I have expressed at past board meetings. And I would like to thank district staff, my fellow board members, for their hard work and dedication during these difficult times. I would also like to thank the parents, teachers, and students for their patience and constructive input as we deal with these extraordinary times and issues. And that concludes my report. Public comments.
Yes, we have 3.
Due to COVID-19 restrictions on in-person public comments are not possible at this time. Persons wishing to make public comments may use the virtual speaker card that is linked from the agenda of each meeting, and your comments will be read during the public comments portion of the meeting or when the appropriate agenda item is up. And Superintendent Nicholas said there are 3. Can you read them, please?
Yes, correct. And I just wanted to inform the board that there is some confusion out there about public comment and as a vehicle to ask questions, particular one about a textbook or a school start time. So what we've been doing is when they come in, we contact the person, answer their questions, and if they choose to have us continue to read it, they're given that option. But if we answer their question and they say it's no longer needed, we're not reading it. So I just wanted to let you know, I think there's a little confusion about public comment as a vehicle, as a question answer. So we have 3 comments. Lorena Garibay, a sample of what the days will look like for distance learning. Roheen Prashanth, in the previous board meeting, it was determined that distance learning would be implemented for the entire district until the end of August. Will it be guaranteed that, for the duration of distance learning, all students, both hybrid and virtual, will be given a spot at their village school? And third, Caitlin Botini, right now we are 9 days away from the start of the school year. While parents are well aware that this school year will begin with distance learning, we have been given little to no information regarding what that will look like. We have no information if Chromebooks will be provided for all students or if we will be able to get any equipment on our own. We have no idea if our kids will need to log in at a specific time frame or if we will be able to make our days flexible and get learning and work in. How are families with 2 working parents supposed to change their entire schedule and work environment in order to accommodate this learning change with no notice? The district has not provided working families with enough information to be able to shift their schedules, get needed childcare, needed supplies, to ensure that we can make distance learning a functional environment for our families and children. When will this information be provided to families who need it? What is your recommendation on how working families will balance the schedule while working 8+ hour workdays? That is all of the public comment.
And just for clarification, all of those individuals and possibly more have been reached out to with answers to their questions, correct?
We had 5 public comment, and I can confirm that 4 of them were contacted, and I believe 1 was contacted and no return of call.
Thank you very much. Consent items for consideration. Governing board meeting minutes from the July 15th, 2020 board meeting, ratification of warrant list from 6/1/2020 to 6/30/2020, contracts under $50,000, ratification of new hires, and ratification of resignations. Would anyone like to pull any of those items for discussion? Thank
Move
you.
to,
Pardon?
move to approve consent items for consideration.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Having a first and second. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, consent items have been approved. Trustee Lampel.
Absolutely lost my place here just a second. So gives me great pleasure to welcome the following new staff members to our Lammersville family. Michaela Imone, a music and band teacher. Jacqueline Benko, self-contained classroom teacher. Jessica Jones, self-contained classroom teacher. Ryan Overland, English teacher. Leah Rodriguez, special education teacher. And Keisha Stiles, self-contained classroom teacher. Welcome to our Lammersville family.
Thank you and welcome. Moving on to item 8, district administrative reports. Superintendent's report. Dr. Nicholas?
Yeah, I have a brief report and some updates. The first thing I'd like to do is remind the community that our school offices are open and there are multiple people available if you should have a question or concern about the upcoming school year, which starts on August 13th. So there are staff available to you if you have a question, so please give them a call. If they don't have the answer, then they can contact the district office and we'll find the right answer for you. So we want to thank everybody as we work into this school year, but it's important to know that the answers to your questions are a phone call away. So we had a meeting with all of staff over the last couple of weeks, and very simply put, we've established 2 goals, a short-term goal and a long-term goal for the 2020-21 school year. The short-term goal is we're going to create as smooth start as possible. Not perfect, but as smooth start as possible. We have a lot of moving parts here, but we feel like we've got all of the things in place or plans in place that will take care of the needs to get the school year started smoothly. The long-term goal is to focus on limiting learning loss during these multiple different versions of education that we're providing this year. Limit learning loss as much as possible, and we'll be able to monitor that statistically over the course of the year. And when we're able to restart in a normal school environment, that we will start strong and get back right on task where we were when the pandemic hit earlier this year. The other important thing to note is there's a governor's order for school districts who reside in the county or counties that are under a monitoring list watch. And San Joaquin County is one of those counties. It's currently 8th in the highest rate of COVID cases in the state of California. So what it basically says is until a county gets off the watch or monitoring list, then for a 14-day period, then there will be no consideration through the public health official for in-person education. So we're sitting in that. Maggie Park is the public health official, but we wanted to just let everybody know where things are at in terms of the governor's mandate and San Joaquin County and Lammersville Unified, which is in San Joaquin County. The other thing is important is on the day that Dr. Park says it's okay for in-person, and the people who chose the hybrid models are going to be wanting their kids to come to the in-person hybrid scheduled educational program, there's going to be a small grace period for families to get organized and the school district to get organized, so we don't get an announcement on a Friday and say, okay, everybody come back to school on Monday. We're not going to do that. So the grace period will be, when we get the news, whenever that comes, there will be a grace period for everybody to kind of reset and do an organized start whenever that happens. Hold harmless is a very, very important factor in our district. I've spoken about it a number of times. At present, it is creating an additional difficult challenge as we set up for the school year. So hold harmless was a well-intended provision in the state budget. In the state budget, it said that we are going to hold harmless on enrollment, districts that are declining and districts that are flat. We're a growing district. There was no provision in there to fully fund growing districts. So in the language that was written, they took care of flat and declining enrollment districts, and they did not fund fully growth districts. So what does that mean to us? Our number was frozen in February, and our enrollment at that time was 6,179 students. Our current enrollment, and this is the conservative number, is 6,426 students. That's a difference of 247 students. So what does that mean financially? That means that the amount of allotment from the state for 247 students, we're missing what would have come in of $2.1 million. In addition to that, they also are counting the CBEDS numbers for our supplemental LCFF grant money. So that has cost us an additional $200,000. So the well-intended budget to help declining and flat enrollment districts is hurting our district and growth districts like us to the tune at present of $2.3 million. So where are we at with that? There's a lawsuit that was filed by charter schools, and the charter schools that are growing are also not being funded appropriately. So they filed a lawsuit through their organizational mechanisms. There is a lobbying effort through CSBA. And again, I want to thank Trustee Balzerini for his connections as a director of that organization, on the board of directors of that organization. We're actively engaged with Susan Eggman's office. The county superintendent is lobbying. The county superintendent's business department is lobbying. And AXA and CASBO, other organizations, are lobbying to say it makes absolutely no sense not to fund the kids who exist in districts that are growing. There was an article published last week which spoke to this issue, and the title, which I did not write down, but essentially said, public schools that are growing and charter schools are being hurt by the budget language, and it needs to be changed. And then finally, there are negotiations that are occurring in Washington, D.C. over a potential state and city bailout through a stimulus program, and also additional funds to assist school districts across the nation to open. And that debate is fluctuating between $105 billion and $430 billion, depending on who's in the room talking about their plan. So all of those things are in motion. Our goal is to win the hold harmless language revision and to get funded the 247 students currently, and that number will continue to increase throughout the school year. So it's a crucial thing for us. If not, the state is essentially asking us to subsidize the education for hiring teachers and staff to by technology and curriculum, and provide the professional development for the educational leaders that are educating our students. So I'm going to have we're going to put up a PowerPoint in terms of showing our numbers so everyone can kind of see how things landed. Okay, so our district enrollment by grade and by program, I think it's interesting. It appears we have at the K-8 level about a 60-40 split across the district for hybrid 60%, LVLA 40%. And at the high school, it's more like 80% to 20%. But we thought we would present to the board the breakdown of how it broke out through the grade levels. So as you can see, we have at the K-8 program about 2,730 students who are in the hybrid program and about 1,914 who chose LVLA for a total of 4,644 K-8 students in our district. At the high school, there's approximately 1,396 students who will be in the hybrid program and 328 students who chose the online pathway program, and a total at the high school of 1,724. So when we were acknowledging Mr. Fober there a few minutes ago, we opened the high school in 14-15 with 450 students. So that's a massive increase in student numbers over a short period of time. And then finally, in our special day class program, 52 students will be attending the hybrid program, and at the high school, 6. So our district population by enrollment is 6,426 students. And so,
Dr. Nicholas?
Say that again?
Mr. President, I'm sorry, maybe I'm the only one. Maybe it's my screen that's
No.
stuck, but I can't follow along the PowerPoint. Was I supposed to be following along the PowerPoint with you?
I did that all by memory, Mr. Clements. No, I'm joking. We're having a little glitch here, so give us a second.
All right.
Yeah, Colin, none of us saw the PowerPoint.
Stuck on the.
Which the information was great.
Is it working now?
Think so.
Can you see a
Yeah.
tape?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So again, 6,426 students are enrolled in our district, which is quite a significant number. We are definitely not the small Lammersville of the past. Okay, so one important thing is earlier this summer we were guesstimating the number of K-8 students that might enroll in LVLA, and we anticipated approximately 30 teachers worth of students that would enroll. As things have turned out, we heard from our community, and with 1,914 students enrolled in LVLA, that's going to require approximately 74 teachers. So our idea to house all of our LVLA teachers at one school site, and we had identified Cordis as a possible place for that, that is not going to work. It's not going to happen. There won't be a singular LVLA hub. Instead, the teachers will be placed at their school sites across the district, and we will be able to provide LVLA and the hybrid model after the distance learning period is over by school site. Next slide. And then just by enrollment, for curiosity's sake, in terms of how it broke down by grade at school sites, you can see Altamont and Bethany here. And of the 679 students at Altamont, 454 chose the hybrid and 225 chose LVLA. At Bethany, it was out of 838 students, 531 hybrid, 309 LVLA. Cordis took a different look. It was actually flip of those. Hybrid 274, LVLA 380 out of a total student enrollment of 654. At Hanson, a similar look of hybrid at 389, LVLA at 418 out of a total student enrollment of 807. In Lammersville, 187 enrolled students, 147 in the hybrid, 40 in LVLA. At Cuesta, 784 total enrollment, 463 in the hybrid, 321 LVLA. Wickland, 472 hybrid, 221 LVLA out of a total enrollment of 693. And again, at the high school, 1396 in the hybrid, 328 online, for a high school total of 1724 enrolled high school students. So that is an update on how our district went from one common public school system to a online virtual system and a digital or distance learning hybrid model, in 2 months. And then just a couple of other announcements. So Friday evening, teacher and student pairings will be made available via Aries. There will be an announcement that goes through our normal vehicle of emails and texts and such. And parents who have followed the login process will be able to find out the teacher who's matched to the student. This is the same process we use every year. Chromebook pickup schedule was released today by School Site. And we will be posting a sample school schedule and a Chromebook framework flowchart for individuals who like to see things visually and not through words. So you want to put those up real quick. So we're going to just show what those look like, so when people go to the website and look on the 2020-2021 webpage, they'll be able to see these two samples. So you have, go to the rainbow one. Can you see the visuals? So in the rainbow looking one, that's a sample set of schedules for people who are curious of how a day in the distance learning model might look. That's going to be provided and posted. And then a flow chart was created to kind of see how the complicated execution of making sure that students have the tools they need was created by our curriculum department. We want to thank Assistant Superintendent Sherburne for that effort. So those will be posted on our website tomorrow.
The slideshow stuck on page 1.
For those, if we can't pull it up, I can say it's got some verbiage, and it has a step-by-step on how it's going to go and a schedule in there. So if we're not able to pull this up and the board's not and the community can't see it, I can assure you it'll be posted on the website tomorrow morning for those interested and like to see things visually. So why don't we just move to the... Okay, and then just a couple more things. We want to thank our Lammersville Teachers Association leadership. We signed an MOU a couple of days ago. A very complicated set of logistical shifts in our program, and we were able to come to an agreement on the steps in following that as we're managing all of these moving pieces. So we want to thank them. There's a PPE stockpile that's over at the SJCOE, the San Joaquin County Office of Ed. We're waiting for an inventory list and a schedule for pickup, but the governor and the state gave a large amount of PPE to each school district. There will be a food service announcement of how food will be distributed coming out on Friday from our food director, Bernie Hill. But generally speaking, and I'm speaking very generally, all students will have an opportunity to have to be served breakfast and lunch. It'll be a site-based pickup. The pickup times will be around 11:15 to 12:15, and she, who's the lead on that, will give a more specific announcement to all of our families on Friday. And with that, Mr. President, that ends my superintendent's report.
Mr. President, if I may, I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Superintendent, does the staff have a recommendation of how long that grace period might be once San Joaquin comes off the watch list? And might it be different for secondary and elementary?
So we were talking about that today. I think we were thinking 7 to 10 days, depending on what day it is. We would rather start a couple of days later and do it well than to rush and have a bunch of fumbles. So 7 to 10 days is the window. It might be a little longer, it might be a little less, but that's what we're talking. And we would shoot for consistency at both programs unless facts change on the ground.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you, Superintendent. I know most houses are equipped here with the internet. Do we have any idea if there are students in our community who don't have access to internet?
So we went through this exercise in the springtime when the schools were closed. We had a very small number, I want to say 2 2 or 3 students, maybe 5, and we were able to take care of their needs with the technologies that were available. So we worked individually with each family, and there was a small number.
Okay, so if there's a family out there that doesn't have internet, they could contact the district office for some support.
We would ask them to contact the district office or their school, and we would funnel them right to where they need, and we would work with them through our technology department.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you have something, Trustee Balzerini?
I did. Kirk or Dr. Nicholas, just so you know, I had meetings last week with all my counties in my region for CSBA, and the reports that I'm getting is that the PPE is insufficient. The amount is insufficient. So as soon as you know numbers, please let me know, because if we need to get up to Sacramento and bang the drum, I want to do that sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Tomorrow, this is a specific topic on the county superintendent's meeting, so I will get an update for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your?
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, District Maintenance and Operations Report. Oh, I thought Ben was going to have to do it.
Board President Pombo, trustees.
Welcome.
Thank you. So once again, I'll be giving the report on behalf of James LeGrand. Work at Cordis is essentially complete. Furniture assembly was completed on Friday, the 24th. Library books arrived on Wednesday, the 29th. The custodial staff is on site touching up all the rooms in preparation for teachers to move in. James and his team have training tomorrow morning on the Watt Stopper electrical system at Cordis and the PDC. The interior summer cleaning activities are complete at all sites. The exterior deep cleaning activities will be wrapping up this week. At Mountain House High School, the main gym was refinished last week and is now ready for use. We have a new HVAC company that has saved us some money. They'll be starting in the district next week. Mobile Modular has been out at Lammersville doing work on the 3 portables that we leased from them. They're replacing some dry rot in the siding. They're doing some painting, painting the ramps, replacing ceiling tiles, and replacing some of the broken screens. And this work we've been trying to get done for some time, and it's happening now as we speak. And we selected a new lead custodian for Altamont this week. And that concludes Mr. LeGrand's report.
Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you, Associate Superintendent Harrison, and
Thank you.
our thanks to Mr. LeGrand and his team. Moving on to item 9, action items. Item A, consider approval of 2020-2021 interdistrict transfer requests. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the 2020-2021 Lammersville Unified School District interdistrict transfer request presented herein as of 7/27/2020.
Second.
Thank you. Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consider approval of second reading and adoption of updated board policies and administrative regulations. Staff report?
Yeah, this has been vetted. There's been a first read. This is the second read, and we recommend approval.
Questions or comments by the board?
Move to approve updated board policies and administrative regulations as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval of the 2020-2021 consolidated application for funding. Staff report?
Yes, it's a formal process. It's associated with categorical funds from federal dollars. It's a requirement.
Thank you. Questions or comments by the board?
I'd just like to say, I know a lot of work goes into preparing the CONAT for the state, so I'd like to thank staff for their hard work on this.
Thank you.
Move to approve the 2020-2021 consolidated application for funding.
I'll second.
Thank you. Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 2021-01, approving post-issuance tax compliance procedures for tax-exempt bonds. Staff report?
Yes, I'm. This might be the most entertaining title of any of these in a long time, but this is a requirement tied to state regulations.
Thank you. Questions or comments by the board?
Move to approve Governing Board Resolution 2021-01, approving post-issuance tax compliance procedures for tax-exempt bonds.
I'll second.
Thank you. Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini,
Aye.
Ann Bonilla,
Aye. Oh,
Colin Clements,
Aye.
Sharon Lampel,
Aye.
David Pombo.
I didn't hear my name, but I will aye as well.
David Pombo.
Oh, did everybody else hear? Because I didn't. Aye. Item E, consider approval of actuarial valuation and of other post-employment benefit programs as of June 30th, 2019, and GASB 75 report fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. Staff report?
Yeah, we have an ongoing retirement obligation. This is the report that shows how we are going to be able to afford that over time.
Thank you. Questions or comments by the board?
I'll move for approval of the actuarial valuation of other post-employment benefit programs as of June 30th, 2019, and GASB 75 report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, consider approval of contracts with non-public agencies for special education and related services for the 2020-2021 school year. Staff report?
Yeah, about 2 years ago, we started for the NPAs and services that we knew we were going to need through the year. We started bringing them forward in the summer. This continues that process. These are NPA-related special education services that we would need throughout the year.
Thank you. Questions or comments by the board? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve contracts with non-public agencies for direct and indirect special education services.
Second.
Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, consider approval of contracts with non-public agencies for the 2020-2021 licensed vocational nurse services. Staff report?
Similarly, this is a nursing services that we would need throughout the school year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by the board?
I'll move for approval of contracts with non-public agencies for the 2020-2021 school year for licensed vocational nurse services.
Second.
Thank you. Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. As mentioned earlier, we have removed item H from the agenda. So moving on to item I, consider approval of the 45-day budget revision of the adopted 2020-2021 budget. Staff report.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank Gloria Grijalva, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, and her team for their excellent work here. If everyone recalls, there was a May revise of the governor's budget. There was a 10% cut to public education in that budget. We were required by statute to bring forward a budget that reflected the 10% cut, and we had 45 days in which to rebuild our budget based on the actual budget deal, which was approved on the 30th of June. So with that said, this is the revised budget. It is important for the board to know two important things. This budget is based on the hold harmless number, which was frozen at 6,171 enrollment. Our enrollment is currently 6,426. Winning the hold harmless fight is very important for our budget, not only this year, but for long-term planning. Second of all, it is possible that during the year, if hold harmless does not deliver money or isn't fixed and money comes in, we may come forward with a recommendation to take money from the Economic Uncertainty Fund to supplement that loss of ADA, which would come forward as things get more expensive. So as we have to hire teachers, buy technology, and supplement for what, in my opinion, is the state's responsibility to fund each student, that may be a requirement or at least a recommendation from us. So with that said, thank you again to the business team. This is the hold harmless number-based 45-day revised budget.
Trustee Balzerini, do you have a question or comment?
Just a comment. Just for the record, I was told by CSBA that the legislature is working on another trailer bill that should be to the floor by the end of August, and that's where we're hoping that the modifications will be made for hold harmless.
Good.
All right, well, I'll move to recommend the approval of the 45-day budget revisions of the adopted 2020-2021 budget.
Second.
Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, information and discussion items. Item A, 2020-2021 school year. Staff report.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about rebalancing policy and practices, and then I wanted to inform the board and the community about all the work that's going on to prepare for the school year. So as I presented in the PowerPoint, we have large numbers of students in our districts in one of two models. So in total, in the virtual or online programs, K-12, we have 2,242 students. And in the distance learning hybrid program, we have 4,439 students. In essence, both of those models could be school districts standing by themselves. So you have thousands of students in two different models. So the reality of having these two models is ultimately we have to place the 6,426 students with one of our 273 teachers, or a combination if you're a high school student. So step one is that all of our students who are currently enrolled are being placed with the teacher. We are announcing in our normal process the teacher and students who have been combined on Friday. Our policy passed by this board was at the start of the school year, there's a 3-day drop period. And what that allows the district to do is to take the no-shows and erase them from the rolls and get a very accurate picture of how many students are attending our school district. Last year, in the first 3 days, there were 225 students enrolled who did not show. We call those no-shows. So they were dropped from our program. That's important because on day 4, the rebalancing process begins. We have been very consistent in informing the public that you have to have a certain number of kids with the teacher. You can't have a classroom of 6 students to one teacher and a class of 40 with another. So the first few days of the school year, we have to get the no-shows dropped and then rebalance. So on day 4, the rebalancing begins, and there's a 2 to 3 day period for final placement for students to be secured. Now, down the road, at some point, we believe that public health officials will deem it safe for in-person instruction. So what I'm about to say only affects hybrid model students, LVLA and high school online pathway students. This does not affect. So when we get prepared for the transition to the hybrid, it is possible that some students may be moved to a different school site for the 2020-2021 school year based on the balancing needs of the district. There has to be the right amount of kids with a teacher. So the best case scenario is as follows. If the number of students who might be moved is exceeded by the number of no-shows during the 3-day drop period, then there will be little to no effect on any students because the drops will absorb the space or create the space for the kids who might be moved. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario in terms of the possibility of moving students at the beginning of a hybrid model is if all of the enrolled students show up because they have already been placed with the teacher, and that's great. That's very good for organization. But when the hybrid model starts, it's possible, because of balancing, that students, and we predict the number to be around 80 students, would have to be moved. Now, there's 2 important pieces. One, any student who's moved will be given their spots back at the beginning of the next school year at their home school site. Let me say it again. If you have to be moved for rebalancing during this school year, the student will be sent back to their home school in the following year. That is a long-standing practice in our district. Number 2, if a student gets moved and a space opens up at their grade level at their home school on a case-by-case basis, the family will be contacted and they will be given the choice to return to the school or stay with the teacher they've been assigned. And again, that is a long-standing practice in our district. So we believe this won't have an impact because of the grace period no-show number will exceed the number of students who might be moved, but I want to share with the board that this is our policy and this has been our long-standing practice for the rebalancing process at the beginning of the school year.
You said that last school year, somewhere north of 200 kids were no-shows.
Correct.
Do you have a number of how many of those ended up showing up later?
I don't have that number. What has happened in my time here over the 7 years is we have a chunk of kids that don't show up in the no-shows, and then that number gets replaced by October. And usually that's new students into the district. I don't have a number for students who show up later. I don't have that. Okay, in terms of any other questions? In terms of preparation, again, we've been working in partnership with teachers and our classified staff. We had long-standing plan and work behind the scenes to develop 2 committees, one for curriculum instruction and one for logistics, which includes on them teachers, site administrators, district administrators, and classified staff. in particular with the logistics committee. So we've already had 3 meetings with the K-8 Curriculum and Instruction Committee. We've already had 3 meetings with the 912 team. They have chosen to combine the logistics group with the curriculum and instruction group, and they have had 3 meetings. And by the end of next week, there will have been 3 logistics meetings with this newly formed committee. But that committee was also earlier a PPE meeting. So in total, the logistics people working on all the ins and outs of planning have met 5 times. In terms of professional development, from TK through 12, all teachers have been provided their digital tools and how-to videos. That at the K-8 level, 120 teachers have already been trained in using the digital tools through our coordinators, our curriculum team, and Assistant Superintendent Sherburne. Next week, there will be 2 professional development days before the actual start of school days, which will be virtual trainings on the virtual instructional models. And all new teachers to our district will be taught the Lammersville Unified Way through PD currently and throughout the year with support. So one of the things I think that separates our district from others is that we highly engage in training our teachers, veterans and new teachers, and everyone in between. Today, again, I already announced this earlier, a Chromebook pickup schedule was released. There's one very important thing that we're asking. Because of the unprecedented growth that we're absorbing and because of slow delivery times, we're asking that families who don't need Chromebooks in the immediate only go for Chromebooks if you need it. So here's the example that is going out. If you have 2 kids in your family and you have 1 computer for 1 child and you need a Chromebook, don't go to the school and ask for 2. Go to the school and ask for 1. That will ensure that all of our 6,426 students who need it, the ones who need it most, will get access to a Chromebook. But those schedules were published by school. We will have staff out working just as we did in the springtime. And we have been told that all of the computers that are supposed to arrive will arrive in time for all students to have what they need. And then finally, just kind of a conclusion point. Over the course of the summer, I have stated that this district team, this board is up to the task to take on this challenge of the pandemic. We have not promised perfection, but what we are promising is as smooth a start to the school year as possible. So over the course of the last couple of months, we literally built 2 districts with the online hybrid, or the online LVLA model and the hybrid distance learning model. Our high school team has built and rebuilt their schedule multiple times. That's a 6-week endeavor to do it once. The last time they did it, because of numbers that came in, they were able to pull off adjusting their schedule over a 2-day period. Our classified staff has been working diligently, moving things, preparing things, adding plastic shields on countertops, all the cleaning mechanism, all the training that they needed. Our curriculum team, our coordinators have put together a 2-week plan for our K-8 teachers, so we have consistent and broad-based execution of instruction from day one. Our high school teams are doing the same. Theirs is more complicated because of preps and multiple curricular areas, but they too are prepared. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Chromebooks have been ordered, and the plan is in place to distribute them as smoothly as possible. And staffing for the growth that we've had has been completed, but as students roll in, we're going to keep hiring teachers. So up to the task. This board and the people at the district office and at the school site have stepped up to the challenge. We are not promising perfection, but we promise a smooth start as possible. Finally, this was all done without the appropriate amount of funding from the state because of the hold harmless language. And we also were able to accomplish this while finishing the construction of our 7th elementary school, K-8, and our 8th district school, Julius Cordes Elementary. So with that said, my final point is, if you have any questions out there, please call your school sites. People are there They have the answers, and if they don't, they'll call the district and we'll come up with what you need. And with that, Mr. President, that is the end of my 2021 school year, or I think I screwed that up. There's a lot of 2021 school year update.
Thank you. Questions or comments by the board?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. President, I'd like to ask Superintendent Nicholas to relay our thanks to the district office staff and all the work that's gone into this, and our teachers. There are districts that are still negotiating memorandums of understanding with their teacher groups. So our teacher group has risen to the plate. Our staff has been working really hard. And from everything I'm hearing, we are ready to open school. Not the best circumstances. This is not how we were all trained to teach, but we're going to get in there and we're going to do the best that we can for our kids. So to all staff, certificated and classified, deep felt thanks. And I'm sure I speak for the rest of the board, but I won't make that assumption. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may, I wanted to verify my understanding on one point and then make a comment on the Chromebooks. The request that people, if they have technology, if they have access to technology, to ask for what they need, that's temporary. And everybody that should have a Chromebook will have a Chromebook, but there is a supply shortage that is affecting more than just Lammersville.
Correct.
Okay. So if your child if your child is supposed to have a Chromebook, they will have a Chromebook. There's just a significant supply issue. And then I wanted to, thank the district staff, echo Trustee Lampel's comments. Thank district staff, and also, kind of echo Superintendent Dr. Nicholas's comments that it's not, we didn't promise, the district office did not promise perfection, because there's a lot of stuff that's still out of their control. For example, in spite of, a huge amount of planning that happens, there's at least one staff member that was involved in getting things ready for issuing Chromebooks that was suddenly taken off the roster because of a potential exposure to COVID-19, which was totally, you can't plan for that. And the district is now having to adjust even now for work that was supposed to be performed today. And I know that's frustrating for your team, Dr. Nicholas, but I want to thank the team for their patience and reiterate to the public, hey, the district staff and the teachers and the classified staff are doing the best that they can with the resources and the situation that they're facing.
I'd like to just echo the thanks to the staff, district staff, both classified and certificated, and all of the leaders in the district office. But I'd also like to thank the public for being patient. I know it's been really challenging for each and every one of us during this time. And I know answers didn't come as quickly as people may have needed them, but I know that we got the answers out there as quickly as we could. So I appreciate the patience of the public, and I want to cross my fingers that everyone has a great start to what is a unusual school year.
Thank you all, and I would just like to echo the sentiments of the rest of the board and thanking district staff, teachers, classified parents, students, everyone for the work they've put into making this a successful school year. Moving on to item B, solar proposal. Staff report.
Recently we had two gentlemen show up and give a presentation about a possible solar project, an energy saving solar project. The board was presented the details and the financial numbers. So staff is bringing that back for board feedback, possible direction, if the board would like us to pursue that endeavor, or what its will is.
Questions or comments by the board?
I heard the presentation from this company, my hesitation, I would like to hear from staff if it's just too much, that we're taking on too much right now, and that this could be delayed, or is this something that would be welcomed? What does staff think about moving in this direction?
Well, it's a good time because there won't be a lot of people around if you look at least the first part of this school year. I'm not quite sure the length of time for a particular project. We're talking about two, if I recall, it was like 2 months on the pool. Ben, do you remember when the pool solar panels was about 2 to 3 months? So it's about 2 to 3 months per site, probably all done concurrently. So that would be a pro and con. It really comes down to the long term, having these things on our campus, and the energy savings model that they presented. I think we could work around some of the challenges of a construction project.
So
I would just like to chime in on the energy savings to kind of piggyback on Superintendent Nicholas. I feel like the 2% annual rate escalation coupled with the 2% assumed demand increase annually makes for a overly optimistic return on investment for us. I'm not sure that either of those things year after year after year will happen. And I also had a question looking at the proposals. It looks like the panels at Lammersville and Cuesta would be covering part of the playground rather than the parking lots. And I was curious as to whether that is indeed the case. They would be covering portions of the playground, or would those portions be transposed into parking lot and therefore taking away parts of the playgrounds?
Mr. Harrison's going to answer that question.
So the answer to your question is yes. Those panels, the structure and the layout for Cuesta and for Lammersville both covered partial grass and partial playground areas. That was the only place that they could get the panels and have the run to provide the power and everything else, and get the percentage of solar for the return on the money. James LeGrand and I went to Cuesta and walked the site where the panels would be placed, and the panels would extend approximately 15 feet over the asphalt on the basketball courts on the northeast side of Cuesta, and extend about 15 feet over the grass area. When we walked both areas at Cuesta, we believe that the playgrounds and the grass areas could still be used with the solar panel structures in place. And in fact, they would actually provide some shade for the sideline of the soccer field, because it partially overhung the sideline of the soccer field, but not on where the soccer games would be played proper at Cuesta, on both sides of the fields, the northeast side and the north side field where the panels are laid out. And then at Lammersville, it's the same. It partially covers the grass area there on the side next to the parking area and the playground at Lammers, and that is the east side of the playground.
So if I understood you correctly, those areas would continue to be playground and not be converted into covered parking.
You bet. It would still be functional for the kids.
All right. Thank you. Further questions by the board?
I have a quick question for staff. Given what we know about the budget shortfall and the number of kids from Hold Harmless, my thought is, as much as I love environmental projects, is this the right time? But my understanding is also that these come from two different buckets of money. So one is from like the facilities bucket of money and one is from the student services bucket of money. And so they're not really connected. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And the solar project would be a net zero cost for the school district.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear to the public. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Associate Superintendent Harrison, when you say a net zero, what you're saying is the installation company would be paying the installation costs, and we would have no cost because it would just come in the form of an electric bill that we already have.
Yeah, maybe I said that incorrectly. We would not have out of pocket costs to the district.
I understood what you meant. I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
you asked questions on the the 2% demand increase and the 2% energy escalator. Actually, I asked that question of Forefront at the facility committee level, and they provided a response. Associate Superintendent Harrison, do you have a copy of their response on those two items? I went ahead and pulled it up. If it would be appropriate to read it, read what Forefront had to say on those two items.
Yeah, I do not have their response in front of me. I have their proposals in front of me.
If you want to go ahead and relay their response, Trustee Clements, you may.
So the Forefront's response on the 2% demand increase was that the 2% demand increase has to do with mid and PG&E rates, not the district's actual demand levels. Our analysis has taken the district's efforts to reduce demand into account. We evaluated the most recent and relevant 12 months of energy demand usage for the purposes of Lammersville USD. We looked at February 2019 through February 2020, disregarding March of 2020 through May 2020 due to COVID-19 school closures. That was their response on the 2% demand increase. And their response on the 2% inflator was, we have chosen to assume a 2% annual demand and energy escalator for mid for several reasons. One, prior to mid rates becoming stagnant in 2012, significant rate hikes occurred annually. These rate hikes mimicked what we see in larger utilities, 2.7% for energy and 5% for demand. Trying to balance historical rate hikes with the lack of recent hikes, we have assumed a conservative 2%. It is important to note that these projects will likely not be energized until 2022, at which point the streak of rate stagnation could be over. COVID-19 is affecting the bottom line of public utilities throughout the nation. Customer delinquencies, revenue shortfall, reduced growth, and increased personnel expenses will likely contribute to rate increases for these public utilities. MID has recently been involved in legal battles over rates. Although they conducted a cost of service study at the end of 2018, the attorney for the utility alluded to MID increasing rates within the next few years. That was their verbatim response, Mr. President.
Thank you. Trustee Balzerini.
In that letter, it references PG&E, but we use MID for electricity. Is that?
Except for Lammersville
Except for-
Elementary
correct.
uses.
That's why they included both of those two.
Okay.
Further questions or comments on this matter by the board? I am inclined to go with whatever our two board members who sit on the facilities committee, whatever that opinion is. They've heard a lot more about this proposal than the rest of the board, and I'd like to hear from those two board members on their opinion of asking staff to move forward with this or not.
I'm okay with moving ahead. I was just concerned there's so much going on right now that I didn't want to overwhelm the system, because even though we're not doing the work ourselves, we know there's an impact on staff. So if staff feels like this is a good time, and as Superintendent Nicholas pointed out, the kids aren't going to be in school. So if we could get this started relatively soon, that would be a good time, because we don't know how long we'll be doing the distance learning. If staff thinks it's okay, then I'm a go. I would recommend it.
I would echo Trustee Lampel's comments on being sensitive to overload for district staff, but as it relates to this power purchase agreement, I do come from the energy space, having done solar developments, not for schools, but for private, and it does mean potentially $2 million to the district over the course of 10 years, even if that's slightly even if it's slightly aggressive and it's 1.7 million or 1.6 million, it's still a sizable amount of money. And then the infrastructure is already in place. So even if that Forefront has to do some work on their solar panels and execute for another 10-year power purchase agreement thereafter, there's some significant potential for the district.
I would like to ask Associate Superintendent Harrison his thoughts on the amount of staff time that this will require if we move forward.
I think that it will. I think it will take some staff time. Even we're not doing the construction, but it's always going to take some staff time. But I think the juice is worth the squeeze, in that the amount of money that we can get for energy changes at the end of December. The rates change, they go down. So if we're going to strike and we're going to do this, I think we need to strike now and get our best rate that we can get, if we're going to go down this road of the solar power.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a long-winded way of saying I think we can make the time for it.
All right, well, I will concur with the two trustees on the facilities committee. If the other two board members would like to chime in or ask further questions or make comments, please do.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Thank you.
So if
I think it's a great idea,
So what we'll do is we'll contact the company, put together an actual plan, and bring it forward, and then execute after a final review. Execute.
This is
Very
something,
well,
the
thank
final
you.
plan would have to come back to the board on a board agenda for approval?
We could take the approval. Well, the expenditure of the contract would have to be approved by the board.
Thank you. Moving on to item C, board self-evaluation. Staff report?
We began a process a couple of years ago of a board self-evaluation. The board has conducted that evaluation, and we've brought it forward if there's any discussion of the board.
Would anyone like to have questions or comments on the board self-evaluation? I thought it came out well. I seem like everybody is on the same page for the most part in how we're performing as a board.
I agree, Mr. President.
Thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, we can go to item D, which is in-person board meetings, and this is an item that will stay on the agenda until such time as we resume in-person board meetings. I think given the current state, now isn't the right time, but if anyone would like to make a comment or ask a question of staff or whatever, please do so.
I actually do, Mr. President. I I appreciated some of the comments from the public and from the teachers. My personal feeling is that that we should, as a board, I think from an optics perspective, we should plan on resuming live board meetings concurrent with resuming live instruction. But I would also say that we should, and I'm just throwing it out there for comment from other board members, of course, but I also think that the district staff, I would like to encourage district staff to plan on having the technology, because I understand that we had some technology problems having some of us there and some of us not, but personally having a potential COVID-19 exposure and being sensitive to other board members who may not want, may feel differently and have different exposure levels and different concern levels. I'm hoping that we can fix the technology so that the board can be live and still accommodate situations where one board member has a potential COVID-19 exposure at the last minute, and that kind of thing.
And I would echo those sentiments exactly. I think that once the county health says it's safe for the kids to go back and the teachers to go back to in-person school, that should be our cue for it to be safe enough for us to resume in-person board meetings, with the caveat that should a board member feel the need for whatever reason, whether it's their personal health or not wanting to expose the rest of the board to them having potentially been exposed to something, that we work on having that technology available, so that if one or two board members needs to attend a board meeting remotely, we can do that as well.
But we also need to take safety precautions, as we will be at the dais there pretty close together. So I would say, masks, whatever, making sure that that area is sufficiently disinfected before a board meeting. Yeah, if we're going to have the kids coming back to school, we can have live board meetings as well.
Yeah, and I think perhaps we can configure the boardroom such that we can socially distance, so that we don't have to try to speak through our masks, which is a challenge at best.
I'll leave that up to staff. I can't imagine how that could be accomplished.
Well,
Having us socially distanced.
Well,
I agree with everyone.
if what they have to do is have some board members there but not on the dais in order to accommodate social distancing, I would volunteer to be at a table off to the side, to create health and comfort for my fellow board members. I'm fine with that if that's the way it has to be.
Further questions or comments? Thank you. Moving on to item E, high school graduation update. Staff report?
Yes, when we made the unfortunate decision to close down for the school year, one of the things that got bumped into the fall schedule was the 2020 graduating classes graduation ceremony. In that time, we've had the opportunity to come up with some planning, and we did a survey with the graduating class, and Mr. Harrison will present what the recommendation is from staff about having a graduation, a form of the graduation ceremony.
So the high school team came up with a plan for a acceptable graduation ceremony in the conditions that we have currently to maintain social distancing, maintain student safety. The date that they are shooting for is August 21st. And the format would be students and families would drive to the circle by the stadium, and they would pull up next to I think a graphic is coming up here that has some arrows. There we go. They would pull up into the circle and park next to the gym. family and student would get out. There would be a stage set up in the overhang of the gym, and the family would hear their student's name read. They would receive a diploma cover, have opportunity to take a professional picture with their cap and gown on in an official ceremony, and then walk back to their car and drive off campus following the red arrows off of campus. I think this is a good alternative to what we have provided in past. When it comes to graduation, this is the best we can do with what we have. We have 113 students that have elected to participate. The cutoff was today at 3 o'clock, so we may have a little more than that when we get to closer to the date. But this would be a 6-hour event because of the timing of bringing the cars in, parking the car, getting out of the car, walking up to the stage, getting the diploma, taking the quick picture, and then going back to the car and leaving. So it would be a very long event. We would try to set up shifts for the board members so you don't have a 6-hour graduation if desired. And I think we could provide a quality experience for our seniors who would like to participate.
What time will this be occurring?
Well, we have a couple of different shift times that we're tossing about. We didn't put a time on the board doc because we didn't know how many would participate. So we're thinking right now of beginning approximately 10:30 or 10 o'clock, having a shift and then a break, and then another shift of students come through ending about 6:15 or 6 o'clock.
And is that time frame, that 6 hours, with the 120 or so that have signed up so far, or is that if all the students were to participate?
That's an estimate with what has signed up so far, and there would be a break in there, a short break in there of time. We've asked the kids to sign up in a block of time, so there's groups of kids in blocks of time as they arrive in their vehicle. They would be assigned a time to come and arrive to campus and drive onto campus. That's how we would organize the kind of the line of the graduates.
I think it's great that we're able to offer anything to our kids, and having my calendar recently open up, I'm available for whatever you need me.
I'm told that we would be provided some chairs as well. That's quite a long time if you're going to try to stay there for the whole session. But we will try to set up some time slots and split up your time if need be.
And Mr. President, I feel, I know the entire board does, but I feel bad for the class of 2020 and whatever we can do to assist them in having a rite of passage, going through that rite of passage that we all have done. I fully support it.
Thank you. I know 6 hours is a long graduation ceremony. If it's not an issue of space, I would like to be there for the whole thing. If it is an issue of space, then I'm fine with doing time slots for the board.
I'm willing to do all day, whatever's needed. So Associate Superintendent Harrison just said we had about 130 students sign up. What was the graduating class? What was the total number?
I think it was.
About.
It's about 325.
Okay.
So about a third signed up. It was 113 that had signed up to do this. So it's about a third of the class.
113.
And Mr. President, I would echo that I would be more than happy to stand there for the whole time. But if for social distancing we need to take turns, I'm okay with that too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions or comments by the board on the high school graduation update? Thank you. Moving on to calendar. Wednesday, August 19th is the District Advisory Committee meeting at 6 p.m. Wednesday, August 19th is the next virtual governing board meeting at 7 p.m. In just a moment, we will be adjourning to closed session where we will discuss public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaint, Government Code 54957, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9B, conference with labor negotiators, Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code 54956.8, and public employee appointment, employment evaluation, superintendent, Government Code 54357.6. Do I have a motion?
Move to adjourn to closed session.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Having a first and second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you all for your attendance, and thank you everyone for listening in on our board meeting.